So there's this design principle that states that if something's nice to use, then you're going to use it more often. It's got a big long fancy name which I haven't bothered to look up, but I'm sure you get the idea. If you enjoy using something, then it makes sense that you're going to want to use it more often. For example, if you have a nice pen and there's a real nice weight to it and it glides across the page nice and easy, you're going to prefer using that pen over a normal kind of Bic pen, which can get the job done no problem, but there's something about that other pen that makes you want to use it more. Now, if you've ever had a go on a mechanical keyboard, you'll understand that there's something very satisfying about using them, and that's why I went and picked up a Keychron K8. There's actually a surprising number of channels on YouTube that is just dedicated to keyboards, and at first that might seem a bit strange, does to me. I mean, keyboard, they're a bit boring, aren't they? They're not the sexiest part of computing, but on the other hand, it's something that you use every single day, so wouldn't it make sense to have a nice one? Wouldn't it make sense to invest in one that you're going to want to use? So this is the one I got. Now, first thing I should say is I'm not a keyboard expert in any way. I'm not an expert in mechanical keyboards. If you are, if you're one of those people, then maybe you want to go and watch one of those channels that is just dedicated to mechanical keyboards. This is more of an overview for anybody who's slightly interested in thinking about picking one up, or has got one recently and just wants to know a little bit more about it. That's really what this video is aimed at. So, sorry if you're a professional and you love your mechanical keyboards. It's a bit strange of you. You might want to go and seek help, but hey, each to their own. Go and enjoy one of those other channels. So, as I said, I went with the Keychron K8. This is a TKL mechanical keyboard. Now, you might be wondering, what does TKL stand for? I didn't know at first. I had to go and look that up, and it stands for, bear with me, it stands for Tenkeyless keyboard. Now, that doesn't make any more sense, but basically what it means is it doesn't have the number pad on the side down there. You know, the little one that you see kind of accountants tapping away when they're doing their sums. Now, for most people that's not going to be a problem, because obviously you've got your numbers repeated up here, and really if you're just doing a lot of maths or something, you might want that keyboard, the 10 key as they call it over there, but you can use them up there, apart from in some situations. Now, you might want to look up if you're somebody who does uses a lot of shortcuts with the programs that you use, or you do a lot of 3D graphics. This is particularly with Blender. I know that this has a problem, is that some of the shortcuts can't be transferred over to the numbers that run along the top. You can only use the keypad on the side there to get the desired shortcut that you want. So if you do a lot of that, then you're probably going to want to get a keyboard that actually has that number pad over on the side. Just something to think about. So the reason that I went with this keyboard over some of the others that are out there is very simply, it's the only one that has two features that are key to me. That's that it's got a Mac function, so this is set up for the Mac OS operating system, so the multi-function keys along the top are lined up with how they are on the Mac operating system. And two, this is a UK keyboard layout as opposed to a US version, so there's a few small changes on little keys here and there. For example, I've got a pound cash sign on the number 3 here along the top, but that's it really. So that was obviously pretty important to me, as I use Macs exclusively. If you use PC, it comes with some extra keys that you can actually swap the key tops over and put the PC equivalents on. And it also operates with Android and Linux to some extent, so it's a pretty versatile keyboard in that sense. You don't have to worry about it not working with your system. So let's go over what comes in the box. There's the box there. I might be cutting to a cutaway there so you can see this better, but I'll hold it up just for now. So what's inside? Well, obviously you get the keyboard. You'd be a bit disappointed if you found there was no keyboard in the box, wouldn't you? But the other things you get is you get the card with the layout on it and some instructions on the back there about different functions. I'll go over them in a minute. You get the USB-C connector to USB-A on the other end. It's quite a nice kind of textured wire, this. So I like that. The keyboard is Bluetooth though, so you don't need this all the time, you just need that for charging. That's some wrappers or something. Mechanical keyboard instructions. This plastic thing that sat over the top of the keyboard, that protection. You get the spare key tops, as I said, so if you want to change them over, I've got a $ one on there. These are the American ones, but I think you can also get the window options, might be all of them in there. And you get a tool for swapping those keys over. You hook it underneath and pull the keys off. So it's useful. But that's pretty much it. That's all that there is in the box. So this is the aluminium version, aluminum if you're in America. They make it out of a slightly different metal. Rather than plastic, you can get it in plastic, it's a little bit cheaper. Build quality is really good. I mean, this feels solid when you pick it up. It's nicely put together, there's no sharp edges or anything. It doesn't feel cheap in any way whatsoever. The keys, they don't feel cheap, they're all kind of nice and flush. No real wobble in them or whatever when you're pressing them. We'll get onto the keys in a bit more detail in a minute. You've got little feet on the bottom. They flip out. There's two different versions of that. There's a little tiny foot and there's a bigger one, so you can have a kind of different version of the angle there. Different version of the angle, does that make sense? No, you can have a different angle of the angle. You know what I mean? You can tilt it different when you're typing. It is quite big, it's quite heavy because it's got a fairly big battery in it. The battery lasts for about 70 hours of typing. That's with the light display on in it. We'll get to them in a bit. So it's not too bad, but it does weigh a bit. It's not really portable. You wouldn't want to carry that around with you in your bag for too often. But I'm not going to use it for that, so that's not a concern to me. I actually prefer the weight. I think it doesn't slide around on your desk or anything like that. So nicely made there. I think it's quite a stylish looking keyboard. I like the kind of matte grey, the kind of two different tones of the matte on the keys there, and then that punch of orange on the top on the escape key. I like the way it sits, the keys sit up off the top. You can see the mechanical keyboard. Probably going to get dust in there, but hey ho, we can live with that. But yeah, I think it looks quite a stylish keyboard. So one of the things I'm not too keen on is on the end here, you've got a couple of switches and the socket for the USB. So the USB is on the left hand side. It's a bit unusual. Normally you have a kind of charging cable or the USB cable in the center. So you have to remember that it's out to one side. It is an angled USB, so it's a flush against the end of it, but it could still be a little bit awkward with your setup, something maybe you want to consider. It doesn't bother me too much. What does bother me a little bit more is the switches on the end. So you have your switches on here for switching between the Mac and Windows operating system, so you want to be clicked on the right one there, and for turning the keyboard on, off, or Bluetooth enabled. But they're very small and the writing on them is absolutely tiny. I've got quite good eyes, but it is hard to see what it actually says on there. So you're going to have a little look at the instructions and work out which is which. It's not a problem, obviously you're going to remember after a couple of goes of doing it, but just to begin with, quite small, quite hard to see. Could have been better with bigger prints, bigger switches. Never mind. So let's move on to the switches. As I said before, these are mechanical switches. Now you might not understand what that is, but a mechanical switch basically just kind of gives you a feedback when you're pressing. So there's a few types of mechanical switches, 3 types in fact. You've got a linear switch which just goes up and down. There's no real feedback on that, but it's meant to be quite responsive, so gamers and people like that, they love them. The next one is a brown switch, which is a tactile switch, gives you some feedback, so when you press down on it you get a kind of little bump, a kind of registered mark of you've made the press there. You don't have to press it fully all the way down to get that. You just press it about halfway down and you get the kind of haptic feedback even that will let you know you've made the press there. And that's quite good for typing, as you don't have to travel all the way down to the bottom of the keystroke. You can just tap away and you get that feedback letting you know you've made the key press. The final mechanical key type is the blue keys, which is what's on this keyboard, which is just like the brown ones. You get that feedback, the little bump when you press it, but you also get the clicky sound. They're also called clicky keys, as you can probably guess why. I have to say that the little click feedback is incredibly satisfying. I could sit here all day pressing these, and you're going to really enjoy using it. You're going to piss off everybody else in the room, but you're going to enjoy using it. So it's quite a big keyboard. It's not too much of a problem for me. I've got large hands, long fingers, so the typing position is fine. If you've got smaller hands, shorter arms, you might want to invest in one of those wooden slats or whatever they are, a keyboard rest, so you don't get that kind of strain on your wrist. No problem for me, but obviously something to consider. It is higher than a standard keyboard. So yeah, one last thing about this keyboard, probably its biggest selling point, is that it's an RGB keyboard, which simply means it's got fancy lights in it. You can get a non-RGB version which just has a single colour white backlight to it, which is kind of nice, and to be honest that's probably the keyboard I would have went for, because I'm not really into fancy lights. Is that a thing? Do people get into fancy lights? I'm sure some people are into fancy lights, but for me I just wanted a little simple backlight that lit up the keys when it was a bit darker. However, that wasn't available, so I went with the RGB one, and you do have the option to just have the single white light in the background or choice of colours, but there's also, it says in the instructions, there's 15 different light effects. I think there's a lot more than 15. If you cycle through them, use the top button over on the right, it's got a little light bulb on it. Not that they've got light bulbs in here, they're not got the old school light bulbs. They've got LEDs, I'm pretty sure, not using the old tungsten bulbs or the, what are they? Sulfur? I don't know. But that's the symbol they've gone with to indicate a light. Like a little idea, you know, like a little light bulb, ding, that's what they've put on the key. You can see I'm doing a cut in, aren't I? Anyway, press that and you can cycle through the light effects. And as I said, there's 15 of them. Now, you have to press it and it cycles through one after the other, so if you get to the one you want and then press it again, you'll go on, you have to cycle all the way back around to the beginning. Obviously not too much of a problem, but yeah, some of them are quite fancy, some of them look like LGBT disco, lots of lights and lasers going everywhere, all the colours of the rainbow. If that's the thing that you're into, then hey, you go for it. For me, it's a little bit over the top, and it can be a little bit hard to see what I'm actually doing when I press a key, and all of a sudden, it's like Star Wars with everywhere. Yeah, not for me. I prefer a simpler colour, backlight colour, maybe like a red or a blue or something. But look, you can set it up in all sorts of different ways to your own liking, and it's a snazzy feature, so something a little bit extra there for when you're really bored in work or working from home. You know, you've got an essay to type. Wouldn't it be better if there was loads of lights firing off all around you? I think it would be. I think we can all agree on that. It's science, isn't it? I'm sure someone somewhere has done a scientific research paper that says it's more fun to do your homework if there's loads of lights going off, like you're in a disco. Discos are fun, aren't they? We all know that. We'd all sooner be in a disco than doing an essay. I'm pretty sure of it.